So as you all know, last week was Canada Road Safety Week. Our traffic section was out very busy for 4 days that they worked, issuing lots of tickets and making sure our streets are safer. So we conducted 4 days of enforcement, and a total of 76 tickets were issued. And the majority of those tickets were for excessive speeding, for seatbelt violations, and use of cell phones and mobile devices while driving, which, as we remember, has been law since last year. So two excessive speeders on Friday were both traveling over 100 kilometers an hour on Blanchard Street, and these were both separate incidents and unrelated to each other, but we seized both vehicles for a 7-day impound, which was new legislation that came in the same time as our roadside legislation for impairment. So we also got 2 impaired drivers on Saturday night, and they had their vehicles seized as well. And just showing that we're fair, cyclists were not immune to the enforcement. We did issue tickets for not wearing helmets and riding on the sidewalks. And for all our traffic updates, you can follow us at VicPD Traffic on Twitter. Any questions about the enforcement at all?
So the 4 days, when was that? Like, what period was that?
They worked Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So what about over the long weekend, like long weekend traffic and stuff like that? Was there any like specific enforcement over that?
Well, the Integrated Road Safety Unit was out and about. And we heard about their roadblock that got blown through there up on the Malahat. But as you know, we have members that are in Ursu, and they are in charge of the whole Capital Regional District, so I believe they spent some time down here as well. So it's nice because we have our traffic section, we have Ursu, we have Saanich, we're able to cover pretty well the whole area. Okay, we had a bank robbery last week. We did do some media coverage on that. It occurred a Friday about 12:50 p.m. Well, we were able to identify a suspect, and that suspect was arrested. He's a 45-year-old Victorian man, and he was actually arrested in Vancouver by the Vancouver Police Department yesterday evening on an unrelated matter. So our major crimes unit continues to investigate, and charges are pending. Now, the man walked into the bank, and he gave the teller a note, and he was indicating that he was armed with a knife and demanding cash. He was given an undisclosed amount of money at the time. We fled the bank out onto Hillside, and we spent lots of time there with our major crime section, forensic ident, going into the scene, getting video. And that suspect was identified early, and in cooperation with all the other police agencies, we were able to get him in custody yesterday.
Sorry, which bank?
Scotiabank, Douglas and Hillside.
So did you say he had a knife or claimed to have a knife?
Claimed.
Was he identified from video surveillance?
Don't know for sure.
And you're not going to tell us who he is?
Don't have charges on him yet. We're still working through that.
His last name happened to start with Z.
I don't know. And even if I did, that's a very unique name that starts with a Z, so.
Is he known to police?
Yes, he is known to police.
Did he flee like in a car or on foot?
So there'll be more updates coming once charges are sworn, and we'll be able to get into some of the details. So I want to give another update on the break and enter that happened at the seamstress shop in the 900 block of Esquimalt Road. It was a quick response by our members who were able to enabled us to make an arrest in that case. As you remember from the time, I think Staff Sergeant Colin Brown quoted on that, and it was a break into a mom and pop seamstress shop in the 900 block. They stole some money, or the fellow stole some money, which was recovered upon his arrest. So it's a 45-year-old Victorian man, Lon Everett French. First name is L-O-N, last name is French, common spelling. He was arrested, and he is a well-known property thief in Victoria. So the break-in occurred Sunday evening just after 7:30 p.m. and a citizen called 911 he was alerted by the sound of breaking glass. He watched the person exit the business and hop on a bike, and he was able to keep eyes on the suspect until he was able to direct us in, and we were able to make the arrest. So Mr. French was held in custody. He has his first court appearance today, and he's facing charges of break and enter and possession of breaking instruments. All right, I'm going to speak to the release we sent out earlier today. Michael Dennehy case has helped launch a new national missing children's website. So Victoria Police is putting the support behind the Canadian Centre for Child Protection as they launch their new website today, which is www.missingkids.ca. And as you know, Michael Dennehy's disappearance will be featured on this site. And that has been a Victoria Police file, ongoing open file since it occurred. So national unveiling occurs today on the EU, the Missing Children's Day. And Michael's mother, Crystal Dennehy, will be speaking, or has spoken, at the Ottawa event. And Minister Rob Nicholson, who's Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, is also there. So missingkids.ca offers a central place for information and access to resources for parents who need to aid in search of a missing child. It also has educational materials to help prevent children from going missing. So March 24th marked the 20th anniversary of Michael's disappearance. At that time, we put out a plea through the media for the person who knows what happened to Michael. We know there's somebody out there that has the answers and can help us bring Michael home. Well, since that time, we've received over 100 tips, and our investigators are diligently following those up. So, as you can tell, with that file being on the missingkids.ca, we want to put our support behind this website, and you can find a link off of victoriapolice.ca website and a lot more information on their site as well.
So where have these tips led you, these 100 new tips?
We're still working through them all. We don't have anything set in stone right now.
How will this site work alongside officers, that sort of thing, in not only the Dennehy case, but other missing children's cases?
Well, it's a good repository of information, and a lot of information is there for how to target harden your kids, so to speak, right, to make sure your kids are aware of what to do, what not to do, and help parents be more aware as well. So I think it's going to be a really good resource for us as far as the prevention side, and they do have lots of tips and databases there as well.
So how is it different than Child Find, like the Child Find website? Isn't there already sort of a national database?
Yeah, there is a national database. This one offers a lot more preventative resources. It does seem to go a little more in depth. So they're putting a lot of cases into it. So we're just trying to throw our support behind them. They're supporting us by getting information out on the Dennehy case. So we're very thankful for that.
But so is there a difference, like where one situation goes or another? Like, I'm just curious.
As far as focus of each website?
Right, like do tips
sure.
all around disappearances go on this website, or do they go on Child Find? Or?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the mandate of each one is specifically.
So this uses social media, wireless devices, and online, it's basically an online database, is that right?
Yes.
So had this been available 20 years ago or something like that, when Michael Dennehy disappeared, I mean, how will this help you now in this day and age?
Well, any tips that we get and any information that we can get are very important to us, especially in the beginning hours of any investigation like this. So a database like this that has all those social media tools will certainly be of use and certainly help us. And we know we had that incident here where a child went missing, and it was on our VicPD Twitter, and that's how the child was identified and located. So we know that it's a very powerful tool, and it's something that we can definitely use to our benefit in the future. All right. So there's a stabbing on Pandora Avenue on Monday morning, sorry. So the strange series of incidents Sunday night and early Monday morning involving a 41-year-old Victorian man who was our eventual victim. It ended with the man being stabbed twice in the head in the 900 block of Pandora Avenue. At around 3:30 a.m., our 911 call center received a call about a man bleeding in the head, bleeding from the head at the intersection of Blanchard and Pandora. So our units went there. They ended up locating the man at Quadra in Pandora, and at the time when our officers intervened to help him, he was very combative with us and refused to cooperate in any way. He also refused to cooperate with the paramedics, so we had to try and talk him into the ambulance and give him the treatment that he needed. He did eventually have to be restrained and given stitches and staples to close the wounds to his head. So a few hours earlier that we had another run-in with the male. We started our night off. About 11:30 p.m., the man was the subject of a complaint in the 900 block of the North Park Avenue. He was trying to enter a suite, but he fled in a newer model truck prior to us getting there. Our officers were able to pull the vehicle over, and they suspected that he may be impaired. So an approved screening device was issued, and which did not result in a reading. So our officers called a drug recognition expert who attended the scene. The man failed the drug recognition expert's test and was issued a 24-hour roadside prohibition, and his vehicle was impounded. So the man left on foot from the 900 block of North Park, apparently on foot over to the 900 block of Pandora. He's not cooperating with our investigation, and we're not finding any witnesses that are being cooperative either. So the stabbing remains under investigation by our major crime unit, and we're asking the public for any information they may have seen this incident or seen the male prior to. We're requesting that they call our major crime detectives.
So when you say there's no cooperative witnesses, were there witnesses but they just wouldn't give any information?
Yes. Not the key pieces of information that we need.
But do you have any idea, like, who attacked him, or whether this person's like a danger to, whether it was targeted or whether it was random?
I hesitate to say. We don't get too many random attacks, sort of at 3 o'clock in the morning on the 900 block of Pandora. So I hesitate to say for sure, but you can speculate on your own.
Was the car that he was driving, was it his car?
I believe so.
Did you say what kind of vehicle was it?
The truck. I don't have the make and model.
Does he know fixed address, or does he have an address?
Don't know. Yes, it does.
I can't remember.
Yeah. All right. Friday night, just after 9 p.m., our officers were called to the Office restaurant at 759 Yeats Street. There was a male there who had been drinking, and with about a group of people. The group of people left, and he was stuck to pay the bill. But he didn't like that, and he began threatening staff and other patrons in the restaurant. And he remained there and waited for us to attend. So officers spoke to the man, who identified himself as a federal inmate on day parole, and he was staying at a local halfway house. He told police that he was not going to go back to prison without a fight, which led our officers to become very concerned for the welfare of the other patrons in the restaurant. Our officers tried to talk him down, but to no avail. The man turned to fight and punched one of our officers in the face. So there was a protracted fight inside the restaurant, but our officers eventually restrained him with the use of some OC spray. The male was taken back to cells, where he was decontaminated and detained there, and the parole office in Victoria was contacted. So his parole was suspended, and he was transported back to VIRCC. And all the local halfway houses have been contacted by Victoria Police as well, and the man is not welcome here back in Victoria if he is on parole again. So he's a 47-year-old Esquimalt man. Charges have not been sworn yet, but have been recommended. The charges are assaulting a police officer, resisting arrest, uttering threats, and food by fraud.
What was he in jail for, or what's the original?
I can't say we can identify him yet.
Did he have a point about his deadbeat friends who tried to stick him with the bill?
It's kind of a moot point when you start fighting with the officers.
Yeah, is it? You
So
don't know how
how
many
many-
people were there initially?
Don't know.
How many police officers were responding to that?
At first it was 2 that he began fighting with, but they were able to call for backup before the fight actually started. So other officers came.
Did you guys pay the bill?
Did we pay the bill?
Did you pay the bill?
Pay the bill for the food?
No?
No, we didn't
Feel
pay
bad
the bill.
for the restaurant?
Well, of course we do, right? And they did call us, initially. And, like all our situations, right? The officers definitely tried to de-escalate it, tried to get them outside. They had a feeling that something was going on and that something was going to go south, but they weren't able to get outside before that happened.
So when he punched the officer, was that at the time that there was only 2 officers there?
Yes,
Was the officer injured?
I'm not serious.
Any details about the officer, like age, male, female, how long they've worked here?
It was a male sergeant.
Do you know how long he'll have to, like, he'll be held in the, in jail
Right.
until he appears in court, and then?
Right, so
Was he
with
on day
parole, he's on day parole. So with parole, a couple things can happen. So the parole office can suspend your parole, which means you can go back, but they can only do that for a short amount of time, so about a month. But if they're gonna revoke the parole, then they have to go through the parole board. So, and then we also have to have our charges for it, for this like this as well, so.
So you can't release his name though, even though he's got a previous charge then?
Right. I know,
Mhm.
I did check.
And when is he appearing in court?
You know what, it's not clear. I don't have a date back. So I think we're requesting the warrant. All right, so as you can see, we have a little show and tell here. Got a couple of replica handguns that were seized this weekend. So 2 incidents involving the replica handguns led to us having some tense moments as we responded to these incidents. The first incident occurred Thursday evening at about 10:30 at Blanchard Courts. A witness called police to report that a man had a gun and he was waving it around. And he was with a small group of people and he was yelling, but not at anybody in particular. And at one point he turned and pointed at our officers who were conducting traffic enforcement across the road and were unaware of what this man had in his possession. The group went into one of the townhouses shortly after, and we were able to get that information from the witness and quickly surrounded the house. 3 youths were ordered out of the house at gunpoint and arrested. One of the youths, who was a 16-year-old, confessed to playing with the gun. The officers found the gun in the townhouse after a consensual search, but no charges are being recommended. As you can see by that handgun, that's the one furthest on the table there. It was a clear gun that's spray painted black to try and make it look more like a real gun. And it certainly does, especially at night time. If you look at that, you can see that. The second incident took place Sunday afternoon at about 3:45 p.m. We had multiple calls to our comm center about a man walking around with a handgun in the gorge area and waving it around. The man had just left the liquor depot at 123 Gorge Road East. And he was walking around and drawing the gun and pointing it at inanimate objects like signs and fence posts and trees. So officers caught up with the man out on Harriet Road. And obviously if you look at the gun, you can see very concerning. It looks exactly like a Colt pistol. So officers took him down at gunpoint. He did comply with police officers after initially arguing. The gun was found holstered on his hip, just like police officers wear. So the gun was a Replica Colt M 1991 pellet gun, which is a common U.S. military firearm. So the gun is capable of causing bodily harm and qualifies as a firearm according to the criminal code, even though it's only a pellet gun. The manufacturer website says it can fire at a velocity up to 425 feet per second and is a dead ringer for the real thing, which if you take a look at it, certainly is. So 43-year-old Duncan man faces charges of mischief, careless use of a firearm, possession of a firearm in a licensed establishment, and has been given a promise to appear for July 4th. last one for today. So we have a home invasion that occurred on Thursday night. The 2 Victorian men were arrested following a home invasion Thursday night at about 11:30 p.m. in the 1200 block of Johnson Street. The 2 men went to the door and kicked it in and attacked the 19-year-old man who was the resident there. The man was punched, kicked, and viciously beaten. And the 2 men also stole a gold watch and a ring the victim was wearing at the time of the attack. So the beating stopped for an unknown reason. The 2 attackers left without saying a word. The 3 men were all known to each other, and the victim was able to identify his attackers. So Donato Zela, Donato Zelaya, a 22-year-old Victorian man, was arrested at his home in Victoria a short time later. The second assailant, Stephen Charlie, Charlie's C-H-A-R-L-I-E, also 22 years old and a Victoria resident. He was not immediately located and a rush warrant was requested for his arrest. He was found 2 nights later at one of our roadblocks in the Tillicum area, and he was arrested on the charge at that time. The 2 men were subject to telebail hearings and are facing charges of break and enter, robbery, assault causing bodily harm, and breaches of undertaking. Charlie is due back in court today, and Zelaya is back on Thursday. The victim was taken to the Royal Jubilee Hospital and has been cooperating with police. The motive for our attack is unknown.
It's a house or an apartment?
Apartment.
So the building has security? These guys break through the building door as well as the suite door? Or?
Anybody can ring in and have somebody let them into an apartment building. It was the suite door that was our concern.
It was broken.
So the Charlie guy was arrested Saturday night?
Yes.
So he was in a vehicle?
Yes.
Like, did they just randomly stop him, or did you
No, he
guys
came
have-
to a road stop and check something we're doing.
Right, but did you guys have his license plate attached to him, or how did you?
Well, officers recognized him because we put out an internal message that this fellow was arrested. So our officers recognized him at the time. They were able to arrest him then.
And they're both known to police?
Yes, they are.
And the victim, is he known to police?
Yes. Yes.
All of which are not very nice fellows.
How old is the Charlie?
22.
He's 22.
Yes.
I missed his proper name. It's Charlie,
That's Stephen Charlie?
Stephen Charlie with a V or a PH?
PH.